bar graph uses bars of equal width to show frequencies of categories of qualitative data. Remember, qualitative data, another name for that is categorical data. We even see that here. It says categories of qualitative data. These are categorical data. The vertical scale in a bar graph represents frequencies or relative frequencies. The horizontal scale identifies the different categories of that qualitative data. Okay, so let's move up a little bit. Okay, and a multiple bar graph has two or more sets of bars, and it's used to compare two or more sets of data. So let's look at an example. I want to do an example of this multiple bar graph. Okay, so below is a multiple bar graph of the recreational visits made to the Great Smoky Mountain National Park and to Yellowstone National Park for the 12 months of 2011. So it's telling us we've got two different data sets, and this is categorical data. They're talking about months. The months, the categories are January, February, March. That would be an ordinal data set, right? Because there is a natural order to that, but these are just categories. Okay, here is our multiple bar graph. We just want to talk about this a little bit and see what kind of information we can take away from this graph. So, what do we think? What do we see here visually with respect to the distribution of the data or the shape of the data? Well, it looks like both data sets tend to have that approximately normal shape, right? We can see that the blue bars that represent the Great Smoky Mountain National Park recreational visits, you know, it's not perfect, but it does rise to a peak and then drop back off. So it has that tendency to look like that bell curve. And then we also see it here. There's a really long left tail, but then it, for the Yellowstone recreational visits, then it definitely rises to a peak and comes back down, and then we have a little right tail here. So both of them tend to be approximately normal. Well, what's something else that stands out? It appears that the Great Smoky Mountain National Park consistently has more visitors or recreational visitors than Yellowstone for every month. Sometimes it's extremely different, and other months not so much, not quite as much, but it looks like the Great Smoky Mountain National Park has more in each month than Yellowstone. Now, Yellowstone seems to have sort of two different periods of time. If we notice here, these January, February, March, April, they're not all that different, and they're not all that different from November and December. But then we get to May, June, July, August, September, and October, and these categories tend to group together nicely. So we have what almost looks like a uniform distribution with these 6, and then with these 6 we've got more of a normal curve. Well, what would explain that? Why would these months be so low, and then we have this rise to a peak and come back down during these months? Well, Yellowstone is in Wyoming, and so probably during the months of November, December, January, February, March, and April, the weather would keep a lot of people away. It's not the prime time. They're probably, much of the park is probably even closed during that time because they know they won't have that many visitors. So that would probably be explained by weather. Now, we also see that happening at Great Smoky Mountain National Park. Those same 6 months are the lowest 6 months for Great Smoky Mountain National Park, but the drop-off isn't as severe as we see with Yellowstone. That can easily be explained by the milder winters that East Tennessee has compared to Wyoming. So more people are still apt to get out and visit the park even during the colder months. So another thing that we might notice is that the 1 month where they actually get kind of close to each other is here in August. Smoky Mountain National Park is actually still has more volume of visitors, but that's the month where the two are getting closest together. all the other months there's a much bigger difference in the number of recreational visits. So that's just something else to note. That's a month a lot of people take vacation. It's a warm month for both East Tennessee and Wyoming, so that would probably explain that. Okay, so this is a multiple bar graph. We could just have one data set here, but I wanted to go ahead and show you what it looks like with two. And they're really helpful for looking at the shape and distribution of the data, and to have some understanding about comparing two different data sets and all the different information we can pull from that.